Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack. Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining, we are less than, or just slightly more than 24 hours away from the start of the Daytona 500. Recording this Saturday morning. Hopefully you saw, but Daytona 500 got moved up an hour to hopefully avoid weather. I don't want a Monday finish. I don't want a Marty Monday. I don't want any of that stuff. I want to see a good racing on Sunday. I want the weather to not be a factor. We got to see the trucks go last night. The Xfinity race will go in a little bit. ARCA race is going right now. We're back. It's NASCAR season, full bore. We're building DraftKings lineups. We're talking some grid rival. We'll give you some insights from our friends over at Win the Race who are powering us this season with all kinds of nuggets, as you can see on Brian's head. Important that, you give them a look. They are super helpful, especially when you're trying to decide on lineups and ownership and all that good stuff, as well as bets, as well as the Discord, which is popping last night for trucks, and almost grabbed a Grant Infinger winner. And he looked like a rocket ship for about two stages, and then that third stage got wonky. So, Brian Twining, how the hell are you?
I'm doing great. As you saw me just look up, I just wanted to check on the ARCA race real fast, and as I spoke, we have our third wreck within the first 20 laps of this 80-lap shindig here at Daytona. So I don't know what we're in line to see later today as we record this before the Xfinity race, and then obviously tomorrow or today when you're watching this for the Daytona 500. Hopefully it's not an utter shit show, and there's some continuity to the racing, and guys aren't just getting crazy at the end of stage one and wrecking a third of the field. But yeah, I'm excited to be back. I'm excited for this race. I'm going to be very cautious with my approach at the betting window, as you saw earlier in the week. Very light this week. Maybe a couple of shotgun plays just for fun. But yeah, I'm ready to dive into this, especially with DFS, where everybody knows the mantra. It's been said on every single show. Stack the back.
Yeah, I am going to try and push this out on a Saturday just because the early start, and we're recording early. If we record early and we can get it out a little earlier for you guys, we'll definitely try. But 99% of the time, this will come out early Sunday morning for those East Coasters. Also, make sure you check out our Substack. It is a completely free newsletter. It has extra picks for DraftKings, extra picks for the betting card, has our full betting card. It has links to all the episodes.
Yep.
If there's other information or whatnot you think would be useful, we'll throw that in there. We'll have our grid rival pick'ems in there, all that good stuff. But with that being said, Brian, let's pull up one thing first before we dive into DraftKings. And just show the people Chase Briscoe. Put him on the poll. Let's go, baby. 30-1. I want to give shout out to Brett Casey for the comment of the week. 45-54. It was, in fact, not stupid, Brian Twining. Chase Briscoe, that number 19. I know we're a Ford heavy production at Daytona.
Yeah.
That Chase Briscoe combination with a much better ride. I don't know if we'll see that on Sunday, but for one lap and one qualifying session, he got the job done. 30-1, cash it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I was in disbelief when he ran the lap. I even tweeted out, like, there's no way that that's a legit number, because who would have thought that after a season where Toyota looked like they were running with bricks attached to the back of their cars when it came to qualifying at super speedways, would come out here and put multiple cars inside the top 10. So it was really a surprise. I believe it actually was the first time since the early 80s, maybe 80, 81, that a car actually qualified on the pole in back-to-back races with two different drivers. And, Martin Truex Jr. ended the season putting it on the pole in Phoenix. And then Chase Briscoe obviously stepping into the 19 car, putting on the pole here for the Daytona 500. So there's a lot of stuff happening here. I mean, it's a great start to the season for Chase Briscoe, who was a guy that we highlighted when we had our chat with Mr. Chris Wormy a couple weeks ago, that the seat was probably already a little warm with the expectations extremely high for this 19 team. And so this is a great start, but we've seen it. The pole winner has not won at the Daytona 500 since the year 2000 with Dale Jarrett. So we'll see what actually happens here on Sunday.
Yeah. I like you said, the pole winner converting it at Daytona seems a little sketchy.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely happy with the price I locked in because, like I said,
Oh, yeah,
my goal was to get. If I could hit the pole, then I'm free rolling the race, and if he wins, then cool, because carnage happens, craziness happens. But if he doesn't, that's also cool. We'll take a look at the updated odds to see if there is anybody we want to add or any additional bets. We've also BetMGM dropped a ton of head-to-head markets, so we'll take a look at those, see if there's anybody there. But let's start as we always do, Brian. Let's go with some DraftKings thoughts. So we are using Win the Race, as well as our own thoughts. Obviously, we're using some of their information. They have their sims, they have their thoughts. But we'll run through some lineups. We'll build at least 3. Maybe we'll build 5 today, depending on how quickly we get through these. I'll remember to enter in all the contests this time. And then we will, like I said, we'll look at some odds. Give you a couple more bets if we have them. We'll give you our grid rival slip for our picks over there. Remember to use our code AOP25 for 100% match deposit bonus up to $100. So let's talk DraftKings. Denny Hamlin, 10K, starting 8th. Kyle Larson, 99, starting 22nd. Ryan Blaney, 16th, 97. Joey Logano, starting top 10, 96. Chase Elliott, 17th, 95. Kyle Busch, 21st, 93. Brad Keselowski, 92, starting 34th. And then William Byron, starting 5th at 9K. We'll stop it there. Interesting range, Brian, because we actually get a combination of guys that people like at salaries that are actually near the top, and they're starting far enough back where there's an interesting discussion to be had. As we mentioned from the front, stack the back. Don't be afraid to leave thousands, especially if you're doing tournaments.
A lot of money.
Yeah, don't be afraid to leave money after you're done building your lineups. But I guess from this range, Brian, who's the 2 or 3 names that you're just kind of most gravitating towards?
Well, I think the first one is probably going to be one of the most popular plays of the week, and that's got to be Brad Keselowski, starting 34th, probably even going a little bit further back, having to go to a backup car. Getting that slight discount, I guess, amongst the most high-priced dudes of $800 from Denny Hamlin up at the top there to $9,200. I think it doesn't really matter this week, but the fact that you're getting 26 placements built into this potential is huge.
Yeah.
And so, when you're looking at building a lineup, placement differential here at Daytona and all super speedways are going to trump any other metrics in DFS scoring. Like Denny Hamlin starting 8th, he could go out and lead 40 laps, but get wrecked at the end of the race, which completely mitigates any of those points that he was able to accrue while leading laps. So for me, Hamlin is a complete no-go. I don't think you can play him unless you go and you build a lineup with Hamlin and then 5 guys starting outside the top 30.
Yeah.
And pray that all 5 of those guys make it inside the top 15 or something at worst. So
and hope that Hamlin's the guy that
exactly. He would have to win the race
incredible.
basically in order for it to be worth it. And so you run a lot of risk there.
Yeah, that's not something that's compelling for me. Even Logano starting 10th.
Yeah.
might be a bridge too far. Brian Blaney at 16th is somewhere where I'm starting to get interested. Still probably a little too far forward for what we need, but is compelling given his track history and how good he could be at speedways. Kyle Larson, 22nd. I'm not a big Larson guy at speedways, but I
Yeah.
know people will get to him. Could make some sense. Once again, Kyle Busch. Brian and I are fading the shit out of Kyle Busch this week. So do with that information what you will. But
I will. I will say this too. I think Kyle Busch makes for the most polarizing argument of any of the drivers on the slate this weekend because he's starting pretty much immediately in the middle of the pack, right in that beginning range where you start to consider, okay, is it worth the risk of him wrecking versus him potentially winning the race? I mean, because as we'll look at a little bit later, Kyle Busch is the consensus favorite, if there is such a thing at a super speedway race, to win the race because of the narrative around him driving for RCR. It's his 20th season, the similarities between how Dale Earnhardt won in his 20th try, like all of that stuff going on here. So I almost feel like in regular weeks where you kind of find that driver that most people are going to be on, and if you're playing in a tournament, you kind of want to deviate from that in order to make yourself a little bit different. I think Kyle Busch might fit that mold because he is in that range of starting spots where people will probably lean to play him a little bit more than not because he is so strong at super speedways as well. And so for us, as Kyle said, he's a complete fade across the board in every aspect of the weekend.
the one thing I will say is if you don't want to bet him outright because his number is crazy and you want to get some exposure, you think he could have a good race, DraftKings is probably the one place to do it, and just be smart kind of building around him.
Yeah.
He's starting far enough back where if you think he could be like a top 3 car, contend for a win, he could make some sense if he gets out, and leads some laps. Obviously, moves forward a lot, has some fastest laps, all that good stuff. But given what we've seen from RCR, I need to see him do it first. Even with the Clash races, I was a little underwhelmed with him and
Yep.
what he brought to the table. But yeah, I'm with you. Keselowski is definitely the most compelling of this range, and if you look at his ownership projections, he's among the top guys. So a lot of the math checks out. Let's dip and go into the next range because I think we can get some fun names in here. So Chris Buescher starting 6th, Chris Bell starting 20th, Bubba Wallace top 3, Tyler Reddick 11th, Ryan Preece 27th, Alex Bowman 38th, and Ross Chastain and Chase Briscoe rounding out the 8K range. So Briscoe, love him, happy he's on my card. No, not playing him in DraftKings.
Not even.
Ross Chastain in the top 10, no thank you. If you want to talk about the contender for who's going to have the most ownership Sunday, Alex Bowman starting 38th is the only one that I think can really contend with Brad Keselowski for insane numbers. Ryan Preece, we've talked a little bit about him on, what was that, Tuesday now? We're both big fans there. Starting 27th in an RFK car makes a lot of sense. Reddick, Wallace, and then I like Christopher Bell. I know you're a little on him, but if you're telling me to pick someone in that 20s that can move forward, can be really good, and contend for a win, Chris Bell might be my guy over like a Kyle Busch, over a Chase Elliott, maybe even over Ryan Blaney. It's close. Kyle Larson, obviously. So so Bowman for sure. You're in on Preece, I'm assuming, 27th, given his price.
Yeah, I made a lineup a little bit earlier, just kind of messing around, and the first two guys I gravitated towards and clicked were Brad Keselowski and Ryan Preece, just in these first two ranges. I think kind of putting teammates together because that they try to find each other on track, and something that we've been kind of regurgitating leading up to the 500 is that Preece joins an already very skilled elite, for me, super speedway racing team, and Preece himself is very good on this track type and in this racing style. And so getting him starting in the back with Brad K, like that's an absolute smash for me. So those two are my favorites. And then the Alex Bowman thing, yes, you want to stack the back, but as you said, he's probably going to be the most rostered guy. So I don't think you can really set yourself up with a lineup of Brad K and Alex Bowman, because now you're in the bucket of, if those guys wreck, like, you're with everybody else and you're not going to be deviating from other people to try to separate yourself to win more money.
Yeah, a couple of things on the stuff you said, which was awesome. I think we've seen with RFK how well they work as a team at
Yeah.
speedways. And if you throw in Priest, who is a smart driver, even if he's not winning the race, is going to be competitive. He's going to help Brad get through the field easily and then kind of push each other. So I really like that call. And I like your call about not using Keselowski and Bowman. Now, when we say that, that's from a tournament perspective, because you
Yes.
can eliminate a lot of the field. If you're playing cash, and I think in all the speedway races, I try to do my favorite cash targets and stack those guys up, because they're going to be 90% owned. So if they're awesome, then you're going to need them. And if they suck, then everyone else is going to have them and they're going to
Yep.
suck anyways. And you're going to just be competitive with the other guys. So if you're playing cash, obviously play the best plays. But if you're doing tournaments and you want to get off some ownership and find some leverage, not using Keselowski, not using Bowman, not using some of the other guys that are going to be highly rostered, is a great way to do that. You don't have to get off all of them. You don't have to be different at all 6 spots. But if you can find one or two ways to kind of alleviate some potential roster percentage, and still give yourself a ceiling that's high enough. That's the other conundrum is, if you get off of somebody, make sure you're getting onto a driver that can produce like that. So something to think about there. Let's talk 7Ks. Cindric, Gilliland, Josh Berry, Richard Stenhouse, Tyrone Gibbs, Daniel Mi Amigo Suarez, Martin Truex, Michael McDowell, and Justin Allgaier round out the 7K range. Interesting names. I think you could convince me that a handful of guys in this range are really impactful. Suarez in a backup car, I think, is somebody that I'm interested in getting to. I think Truex will be popular, but I don't know if that's the roster clogger I want to get into.
That's
Um,
so funny you say that. Like, our minds are, we've been doing this for too long, because I was thinking the same thing. Like, I think Truex is going to garner as much attention as, say, an Alex Bowman this week. I mean, he's a popular name. Everybody knows who he is. He's coming off of a Hall of Fame career. It's not like he was trash at super speedways. And the expectation is he's here to try to win the race. Like, he's openly said he doesn't want to race unless he thinks he has an actual chance of winning that particular race. And so when you hear that from a guy who's got all the backing of Toyota, JGR has been helping the Tricon Garage set this thing up, and he's got his old crew chief and Cole Pern. I think people are going to be all over Truex on the narrative of, oh man, he just retired and he's going to come back and maybe he finally wins a 500. So yeah, I'm in lockstep with you there in that I don't really want to play him, just because, especially in tournaments, like, you don't want to have a guy who's starting in the back at 35 to 40% roster percentage if in case he wrecks. Like, I would much rather play somebody who's going to be way less owned, maybe starting a little bit more forward, and who's kind of out of the minds of everybody. A guy like maybe Ricky Spinhouse Jr., who nobody has faith in this guy to do what he did a couple of years ago and win the 500 again. So why not take advantage of that and buy him at a way less percentage of roster? And he's probably going to be around that 20% range, which to me, you get a huge break off of Truex, and you're only losing 8 spots in the placement differential.
yeah. Like, I'm looking at Truex recent results at Daytona, and it's a lot of, in the 500 specifically, like, it's a lot of 13 to 25. Which, like, if he
Well,
starts 39th and he gets into like the teens, like, that's a really good guy to have. but he's not driving the same equipment. And I know Toyota's helping, and I know JGR is helping, but
But
it's
let me
still
just,
Tricon. It's like when we saw Colleague with the Trackhouse support. Like, it's still.
yeah, let me let me throw a rebuttal on that though with
Push back,
Truex.
baby. Push back.
In particular, like, look, I just talked all this crap about not wanting to play Truex because everybody's going to roster him.
Now we're
And
gonna play him.
yes, I think a lot of his results here at the 500 were based on the fact that he didn't really have that aggressive style of racing in his nature to push his way to the front, aggressively take up holes that probably weren't there, make the block that was necessary to find the front of the field. Whereas now, this is a one-off race. There's no guarantee that he's signed on to race any other events this year. And so he's here for one goal and one goal only. That is to win. So obviously, I think his ceiling is as high as anybody. But I also think, along with the incredibly high roster percentage, it adds in all of that variance that you wouldn't have necessarily seen in the past because he is upping the aggressive meter here.
I will say, if he wins the race without James Smalls as crew chief, I will.
Oh my
I will
God.
cackle. I will cackle.
Oh man.
Especially if Briscoe has a bad race.
Honestly, that would lead me to immediately go shop Chase Briscoe under season win totals if they were available.
Yeah, maybe grab him now if you think he's gonna be underwhelming. Big driver.
Is there anybody else in this range that you like?
What's that?
Is there anybody else in the 7K range that you're like, kind of like, I want to play?
I'm kind of into Josh Berry, 29th. I'm into Daniel Suarez. I know it might be silly, but 36 for a guy that I trust to at least be solid. I don't know if he'll be amazing, but and we've seen him pop at speedways.
Yeah.
McDriver, 25th is just close enough at 7,100 where I'm happy to use some of him. I'm probably not going to get to Gator.
Yeah, I think I was kind of disappointed that Allgaier grabbed a spot as high up in the starting grid as he did.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to get to Tyrone. Gilliland, no, I can't.
No, I have zero interest in Todd Gilliland.
Yeah, I could see him having a decent race, but maybe he finishes 7th and moving up 7 spots when I could get 27 spots from someone else is just not very appealing. Let's talk 6K. Austin Dillon starting 15th. Noah Gragson 32nd, AJ Allmendinger 13th, Justin Haley 35th, Carson Hocevar 33rd, Eric Jones 4th, SVG 26, Cole Custer 62 at 30th, Riley Herbst, Helio Castanevis. We'll do 5K separately. 6K. Where are we at?
For me, the first name that I go to is Justin Haley. He was running pretty good during the duel until he got taken out by Chandler Smith, who was not clear. And he's somebody also that I think when you look at Daytona 500 and trying to predict what's going to happen here, you want guys that are kind of in that safer style of racing. And Justin Haley has been one of the safest drivers in the Cup Series when he's ran at this level throughout his career. And so, he's a guy starting 35th that I could definitely get behind, especially with the speed that Spire has shown the last couple of years. And his teammate Carson Hocevar a little bit too. It depends on, I guess, the rest of my build of
Hocevar scares the crap out of me, but
Yeah.
I definitely feel like he is someone, especially if you're doing tournaments, if you get him right,
yes,
could be really, really good.
Well, I think Hocevar can be paired with guys who you think are going to be a little bit more on the safer side. But if you have a lineup of just a bunch of pedal to the metal, I don't give an F drivers, that's terrifying.
Yeah, I feel much better with Noah Gragson, 68, starting 32nd. And I feel better with Cole Custer if I'm going down to 6,200. And I know it's the Haas Automotive, and we'll see, but I do feel okay with him being relatively smart Maybe he does some. Maybe he's mixed in with the squirrels and has no choice in the matter. But I think, given what we've seen from him, given that this isn't his first rodeo in the Cup Series,
Yep.
given that they're a one card team and they're probably trying to make smart decisions and not throw it into the corner and hope it works out in stage one, I think he could be fine at 6,200.
Yeah, that's funny you say that because I think he's kind of flying under the radar, and a lot of people are shitting on Haas this season because of everything that went on last year and how they disbanded the team and all that. But because they're down to a one-car team, I really think that you're going to see Custer run much better than what the expectations are on a week-to-week basis. I mean, this is a guy who just spent a couple of years in Xfinity honing his skills, maturing as a race car driver. And to your point, maybe they enter this season at the beginning more along the lines of what Spire used to be with, say, Corey LaJoy, where they used to tell him at super speedways, like, look, we need you to just ride around, accept your 10th or 8th place finish. Don't get crazy. Don't wreck the car. And if you're going to play a guy starting 30th and he can get, low teens, maybe even a top 10 by chance, like, I don't think many people are going to play Custer based on a lot of that stuff that we just talked about.
Yeah. I'm like, looking at his roster percentage over on Win the Race, it's not as low as I thought it would be, but it's an estimate. It's usually pretty spot on, so that's worth taking note of, obviously. But
I mean, anybody in the 30s is going to be rostered.
Yeah, and it's always interesting because you kind of have to smooth that out. And I think people will glob on to certain guys. I think Gregson will be popular. I think Haley will be really popular. Like, if you're building, like, we can build a cash lineup of all the popular guys here in a bit, before we do our GPP tournament lineups, and I could pick out all the guys that are going to have extremely high roster percentages. John Hunter, Zane Smith, Corey LaJoy, Jimmy Johnson, Ty Dillon, Cody Ware are the only guys left in the 5K range that are actually racing. If you're like scraping and you're like, I mean, you shouldn't be in this position most likely, but if you want to get real gross, is Zane Smith or Jimmy Johnson like the only ones you could even potentially click?
Yeah, there'd be no way. I can't play Alio when he's already in a backup car and his first time ever racing in the Cup Series. And so there's no chance. I don't think you could play him in any format here. Jimmy Johnson, I just worry, like, every time he's run in the Cup Series, like, that thing has been crap. And so I worry about him getting caught up with the squirrels. Ironically enough, I think Cody Ware may be the best, like, value play of this little range, because nobody's going to want to play Cody Ware in an RWR car starting 28th when you have guys like Jimmy Johnson, Zane Smith, who's going to take on a lot of the roster percentage. And then in the range right above this, because you're not concerned with salary this week, you have the guys like Carson Hocevar, Justin Haley, Noah Gragson. So I think Ware starting far enough back, I think you can start to consider him is a guy that could potentially get you inside the top 15, and you're not losing that much based on what he's only $5,200.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's build the cash cell so we can agree on some of the most popular names, and then we'll build some tournament lineups off of that.
All right,
so I think we need to get Keselowski. I think we need to do Kyle Busch. I think we need to do
Bowman.
Huh?
Bowman.
Yeah, Bowman. Truex.
Yeah, he's further down.
Here we go. Truex. Like, look at that lineup, and you still have over 8K for the final two spots. Justin Haley.
I would think that this is the perfect type of lineup to play a Carson Hocevar.
Oh, I'm just trying to build. Like, you think he's going to be popular, or you just want to put him in because you think he's a difference maker?
No. I think when you're comparing between the two of Justin Haley and Carson Hocevar in a cash lineup, for instance, the way that you've already built this, I think Hocevar offers a little bit more upside than Haley because I think he is slightly more aggressive, but also the same floor.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. I mean, maybe we just play both of them, but I'm just trying to figure out who the popular guys are going to be. Yeah, Hocevar is going to be pretty popular. It looks like. I
That's
think
terrifying.
yeah. It's really like the names that for the final spot are like Hocevar, Gregson, Suarez.
Well, let's put Suarez in there because
Yeah, like if you're doing cash, I think this
he's
is some
7K,
version of this is the move.
7,300 right there.
Yeah, right in front of my face. That and look, that's leaving 2,200 on the table. Like that's probably the cash shell. And then if you want to pivot off of like, I don't think Justin Haley's the answer, or I think Truex is going to be bad, or I don't like Kyle Busch. You can go to a different name, but for the most part, 4 of these 6 guys should probably be in your cash lineup. All right, let's build the fun lineups now. So, Brian, who is your favorite play on the slate? Price, upside, points scored, all that good stuff.
Brad Keselowski,
Yeah.
along with everybody else and mother and uncle and brother and sister who's playing DFS this weekend.
Mm-hmm. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, right?
Hmm.
Well, I mean, I would want to put Busher in, but given where he's starting, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So I will scroll down and I will put in Ryan Preece.
Beautiful. All right. Let's go Cole Custer here.
Okay.
I think the Ford connection could play out.
I like where your head's at. I also liked where your head was at when you mentioned a particular driver that maybe is a little too gross for some people. I'm going to throw in Mr. Cody Ware.
I mean, look, I don't think there's going to be very many people that are like, oh, yeah, I want to play Cody Ware this week. So you're looking to get different. That is definitely a way to do it.
We have over 10K for our final 2 spots. Obviously, we don't have to spend any. We can leave 10 grand on, 5 grand on. We need 2 more drivers. So,
all right,
give it to me.
I was just gonna say, if we're gonna be gross, I got to put Ricky Spinhouse in this group.
I like it. I like it a lot. Question is, since we're building a tournament lineup, we probably don't want to go to Bowman.
No.
But how chalky or potentially close to chalky do we want to be?
I mean, I think we've kind of mitigated some of that with Ware,
Mm-hmm.
and to a lesser extent, Ricky Stenhouse. So, and probably Custer a little bit as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think we're safe going with almost any direction we want. I think a guy like Suarez makes sense here because he's kind of taking the scraps of the people that aren't taking, say, Bowman, for instance. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Suarez this week at the betting markets, but when you're throwing darts here when you're playing stack the back, and
yeah, and given where he's starting at 36th, I think he can move forward. I think he can be a guy that not only doesn't murder you if he's a top 20 car, but like that's already 16 spots. but he could also flirt with the top 10, maybe even get in, 7th or something. Like, that's not crazy. Let me look up his history here. If not Suarez, is there another name or two that are interesting kind of in this, like, I mean, I guess we could spend whatever we want, but like, I think Kyle Busch would be a consideration. I think Suarez is a consideration. I think Truex, but I do like if I can spend $100 more, which we obviously have plenty of room. We're moving forward a couple spots, but we're also getting off of a lot of potential ownership with Truex that I think makes sense.
Yeah, and then I think in another lineup, I really like your call of like Michael McDowell, because I don't think, kind of to the same discussion we had about Cody Ware. I mean, much less so. McDowell is a past 500 winner who's starting, I think, at the very beginning of the range where you start to consider guys who have a very high ceiling. And I think in another lineup build, I think McDowell is going to be a fine play, because he is somebody who could find his way to the front and win again.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people are going to be on that.
All right, I'm going to throw Suarez in this one. I'm going to save that lineup. We'll build another one. Okay, so we'll start with McDriver, which I think is a good call. And I'll give you the T. Where are we going next?
So this has to be the
Should we put
lineup.
Bowman in this one?
Yeah, this has to be the Bowman lineup.
Okay, put Bowman in. Do we want to dabble in the Kyle Larson market if we're doing Hendrick? Because I don't know that I even want to play Chase starting 17th. And
Let's do it. F it. Put in Larson.
Okay. He's another guy like I don't love at Daytona, but I think if we're doing a tournament lineup, has a little more upside than I think people realize.
Yeah, I think he's much better here than a lot of people realize. I mean, I don't think he's great by any means, but it's not like he's running in the back the entire time because he's terrified of making the correct move. Because if there's anybody in the sport who's unafraid of making a move here to try to win the race, it would be Kyle Larson, in my opinion.
Marty? Gragson?
I think this is a spot where you get one of the other Spire guys. So either Haley or Hocevar.
I want Haley.
And then I don't hate Gragson kind of getting off of Truex.
Yeah.
Because Bowman's going to take on a lot of the rostering here. I mean, they go any place you want.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that we're going for enough points when we're kind of getting off of, like, it's fine to spend less, but you want to make sure that your potential output is going to be high enough.
I mean, maybe you do play Truex.
Yeah, Truex, Zane Smith.
I have zero faith in Zane Smith to keep the tires on.
Stenhouse. Truex is a little, like, you talked to even you mentioned it, like, he's out for a win, and so it's not like, well, it's kind of hard to go to him. If we have, I mean, I guess we haven't, I don't know. It feels like a lot of ownership to take on for somebody that I have a lot of concern about.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, to me, it's going to be checkers or wreckers for Martin on Sunday. He's not going to be satisfied just chilling with a 10th place win. Like, he's going for a win this weekend. There's no other reason for him to be in the field.
I know we mentioned to not use Brad and Bowman together, but maybe with the Larson McDowell combo, it's enough. I don't know.
All right, you want to get gross? I mean, this is Daytona. We're building gross lineups. Just put Jimmy Johnson in there.
I mean,
just for the car, just for the paint scheme. That paint scheme is sick. He should have been wearing the hypnotic Shaq shoes from the 90s.
I don't know if the kids even know what that is, Brian.
Yeah, aging myself here.
Yeah, I like it. I like
And
it.
they were Reeboks before they were at Walmart, everybody.
Let's create one more lineup. All right. Is there anybody that either we haven't used or you want to make sure we feature in our last lineup?
I mean, our guy BJ McLeod didn't make the field, so
No, so
that's
sad.
very sad. He was always a regular. Well, we used Bush and Larson
We
already.
could do Truex since we haven't used him, but I don't love him. I'm happy to avoid him.
Yeah, but
Gregson,
I
I
think
like.
he is the ultimate upside guy because unlike Alex Bowman, who has the rest of the season to
Catch
accumulate
up.
wins, Truex is here for the race win. Like if he goes out there and he wins the race, which I think is totally like it, not likely, but it's definitely possible.
Ryan Blaney, or is that too cute?
Blaney has the worst luck here.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I'm gonna do Keselowski, and I'm gonna do Josh Berry.
Christopher Bell.
I love it. I love it.
I mean, we're playing with fire considering the fact he's finished inside the top 3 in 3 of the last 4 Daytona races, and that's not likely to continue, but he has been improving every single track that he goes to, and, you know, maybe the last bow in his tie is...
Yeah. Kyle Busch, Alex.
I don't want to go to Bush again, though. We're already messing with 2 guys in the 20s here.
Yeah. Suarez.
Did we play
Stenhouse.
Gregson at all?
We did in our last lineup, but I'm happy to go back to him again starting 32nd.
What about, do we have Hocevar anywhere?
I don't think so. I'll throw him in because we
I
did
mean,
a
you're
good
talking about
Haley in the last one.
ultimate go for the gusto lineup.
Yeah, this is very gusto. All right, so we have 4 lineups. This is our cash shell: Haley, Truex, Suarez, Bowman, Keselowski, Kyle Busch. And then we did Keselowski, Priest, Suarez, Stenhouse, Custer, Cody Ware, Kyle Larson, and Alex Bowman, McDowell, Gregson, Haley, Jimmy Johnson, Keselowski, Bell, Barry, Truex, Gregson, Carson Hocevar. Don't dupe us, bros. The one thing I will do now is before we jump over and look at the rest of our odds, I do want to throw up our Grid Rival Pick'em. So this is our second pick slip over on Grid Rival. As a reminder, AOP 25 gets you 100% match deposit up to $100. So go over there, throw $20 in, get some exposure to a few pick slips, avoid the nonsense that is Daytona from the betting market, or jump in there too. Everybody needs a sweat. So we'll get some DraftKings sweat. We'll get some Grid Rival sweat. We'll get some betting market sweat. But we went worse for Chase Elliott over 10.5. And feel free to fade us on any of these. If you're like,
Come
oh, I
at us,
like
Chase
2 of
Elliott
those.
fans.
If you like 2 of those, but not the third one, like, for example, you think Chase Elliott's going to win the race, go better. That's fine. Send it to us on Twitter. Let us know where you're riding. We're going Logano over Kyle Busch.
Getting a placement and a half, by the way.
Yeah, which is crazy. And then we went Ryan Preece over Austin Dillon. We actually did another one. I, of course, deleted it on our earlier week where we had Cindric with points over Chase Elliott, and that's no longer available. So if you see a slip that we throw out that you like, make sure you get on it early because they do move markets depending on who gets in on what and all that good stuff. So make sure you're checking that out. While you're there, join our completely free listeners league. It's a season-long contest. Pick 6 drivers, you get them up for up to 3 races, and you can compete for prizes. We're gonna have
I think it's
prizes.
actually up to 5 races, sir.
It's 5 this year? Okay.
Yeah, it's 5 races, and then after their contract runs out, or if you release them early, there's a 1 race hold to where you can't roster them for that next upcoming race as well. So this is definitely a game where you're testing your skills of looking ahead in the schedule.
Mhm. Yeah, so you want to look at the schedule, look at, okay, I got 3 races. So you may not love Christopher Bell at the second of 3 or the second of, or the third of 4, but you love him for all the other ones. And then if he does well in that first one, his salary is going to change, but on
Yep.
your team, it's going to stay the same. So it's really important you do that. It's a season-long contest, as I mentioned, so you can accumulate points as it rolls along. And like I said, the winner at the end of the year will get a prize. Last year we did $100. This year, I think we're going to try and find some signed memorabilia or something cool. Maybe we'll do a first and second. And if you beat, you have to beat Brian and I too. So that's also part of the contest.
Bring it
Last year
on,
I
people.
think we were both top 5, but
Yeah.
couldn't quite get there at the end.
I definitely faded at the end, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to blame football season
Sure,
starting.
sure. Everybody does. Let's take a look at the outright odds. As a reminder, I have Bell at 26 and Briscoe at 37.50. Brian just has Cindric at 28. Kyle Busch, still your favorite. Logano, Blaney, Hamlin, Keselowski, Elliott, Byron, Larson, Bell, all inside 20-1. As also as a reminder, shop, because you can find better prices if you have access to other things. I also understand that if you only have 1 or 2 books and you'd much rather just take your odds that you get and not have to deal with redepositing and all that good
Yeah.
nonsense too. But Bell, yeah, I feel good about having Bell. He's 16 or 18 most places. I pulled up FanDuel as well, just because sometimes they have interesting odds, like Kyle Larson being the favorite over here, where he is 16 over at Caesars. So, like I said, I'd much rather bet 16 than 12. I don't know if I'm probably not betting either of those. But if you have a couple options, make sure you shop it. Brian, is there anybody inside 20-1 that you're contemplating?
Man, I just have such a hard time now getting money down on these races inside those extremely long numbers. Just because like I just don't feel it's worth it to even sweat, 20 bucks on these things when the likelihood of them actually hitting is probably worse than any of the odds that you're actually being given, because I don't think any, even at win the race, I don't think any amount of analytics or simulations or anything like that can account for the high variance on super speedways and just the utter chaos that can occur at times. And we've already seen it to begin the 2025 season in NASCAR here, whether it's debris smashing Chase Briscoe's grill during practice, or cars spinning out on their own, or Ilya Castroneves going on the apron and not realizing that there's no traction down there and spinning out and wrecking up on top of the wall. Like, we're going to have 41 cars on the track at one time here on Sunday, and I have zero confidence that anybody can get through that unscathed. So unless you're giving me an extremely long number, I don't think I'm personally going to be getting down on any of these guys inside 20-1.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to justify it, especially since it's a long season. Like, if this was our only race, maybe it would be a little more willing. And if you want to throw $20 or $10 on the race, like, go get yourself a lottery ticket, because we've seen, you know, crazy stuff happen. I've also had some people on Twitter reaching out that of some interesting bets where you can get like winner to come from 17th or worse, winner to come
Yeah.
from 5th to 15th. So if you find a grouping in the starting grid of drivers you like, you could just put some money on that, and then you have a fleet of cars, and you pick and hopefully one of those guys gets home. So something to think about there. Todd Gilliland, Austin Cindric, Bubba Wallace, Chase Briscoe, Chris Buescher, Ross Chastain, Tyler Reddick, uh, Eric Jones, and Alex Bowman are kind of in that 20 to 40 range. I like Buescher at 25. I think he is really good. I think RFK could be really good. What's the best number I can get on him? You can get 25 seems pretty common across the board. I like that number if you want to get some action down. Briscoe at 22, I don't love as much as north of 30. Bubba 22, it's fine. I don't know. I think there's a couple names in here. What about you, Brian? Is there anybody in here that you're willing to dart throw?
Yeah, that's going to be none other than Mr. Chris Buescher, who at FanDuel, he's currently still 28-1. So I'll take 2 outrights at 28-1 this year for the Daytona 500 on 2 guys that are incredible racers at super speedways.
Yeah. See, that's the thing is it's really tempting to grab somebody you like up here, but when you can scroll down and Chris Buescher is really good, or go over to FanDuel where you can get Chris Bell. Yeah, I don't love it as much.
Well, and then the thing too is, like, as I was saying, there's no amount of data or research that I think you can look at to tell you that somebody should be 12-1. Or in Kyle Busch's case, do not bet this at DraftKings, 9-1 to win the Daytona 500. That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
The dude has never won this race. How are we all of a sudden over here putting him inside double digits for the most prestigious race of the year?
It's because everyone's betting him. That's where all the money comes in. That's how it works.
It's dumb. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's real dumb, but we're taking advantage of it. Buescher at 28. FanDuel's awesome, by the way, if you have access to FanDuel. Buescher at 28, Bubba at 26, Briscoe at 25, Bell at 18. I don't love quite as much, but I think there's a few dart throws in that range that I'd be happy.
And you know what? I'm gonna add Bubba as well at 26.
I think that's a good number.
Like, I can't get through a super speedway race without betting my guy, Bubba Wallace. And again, very small here. We're talking
just like $100,000 a pop. It's fine.
Like, we gotta save these units for when we get to Coda, and then that string of Phoenix, Vegas, and Homestead, which are going to be very heavy.
Stenhouse, McDowell, Austin Dillon, Eric Jones is still 45 at FanDuel. I don't hate that. Justin Haley, Ryan Priest 45.
I don't look again. Like, if you're throwing darts on people, this is the range where I think you have the most fun, because they can all find themselves up front at some point during the race. You saw Eric Jones win the second duel. I will forever claim that he won that race, just like Parker Kligerman last night in the trucks. Those two won those races. And so, if you're planning on having some fun here, yeah, like Kyle said, take $10, throw it on 45-1. I think that's a
45-1, and Eric Jones is much better than 35. Josh Berry at 45, Gregson at 45. Like, they're sort of interesting. All right, so I only have Bell and Briscoe at the pre-race numbers. Brian had Cindric, and he added Buescher and Bubba at 28 and 26, which I think are fun bets. Is there anybody else, any other long shots, any lottery tickets, anybody else you're considering and or make a point of adding? Are you good with your 3?
So we talked about him during the DFS show. Carson Hocevar, he is a guy that if he's up at the front late in this race, he will do everything in his power to either wreck or win. And so if you can get a long enough number, I mean, you see a FanDuel right now, he's currently 75-1. I don't mind putting a $5 on that, because if there is somebody within this range who I think has a legit shot to get to the front and potentially win, I would say it's somebody like Carson.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout. Just looking and trying to, like, Harrison Burton is won at Daytona. Austin Dillon is won at Daytona. Ricky Stenhouse is won at Daytona. Don't be afraid to take a little shot with some people that maybe, and even like given where they're starting, like I think the Bubba number is really compelling, and I'm really tempted to put it on. Eric Jones is interesting. I think Bowman's somewhat interesting.
And then, I wanted to hit on Bubba real quick. I still don't understand why Bubba gets priced where he does at these super speedways when he was on with Jordan Bianchi and Jeff Gluck during the media day. He has the top average finish here at Daytona of any active driver. Like, the dude is almost always there at the end, whether it's competing for a win inside the top 5 or potentially inside the top 10. Like, Bubba Wallace is always there at the end. And so for him to be priced where he is, I think is just it's flat out wrong. Like, he should be in that low to mid teens range with everybody else, especially when you consider a guy like Ryan Blaney, for instance, long considered the favorite at super speedways. He can't get the job done here. He lets his teammate Austin Cindric bully him coming to the checkered flag a couple of years ago and just lets him steal a win from him. I mean, like, give me Bubba over Ryan Blaney on this track type.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's just because they don't get bets on him unless it's us, apparently. All right, I added Bubba at 26 based on everything you just said. So I have for the 500, I have Chris Bell to win, I have Chase Briscoe to win, I have Bubba to win. You have Cindric, Buescher, and Wallace. We'll flip over to BetMGM, look at some of their head-to-heads, see if there's any other props or anything we want to hit on. Probably give you our favorite thoughts, and then obviously make sure you are subscribed to the free newsletter. See all of our betting card there. Anybody else we happen to bet. If you have thoughts, let us know. We're down to talk betting, and FPAOP on Twitter. You can give us your favorite bets, or you can drop them in the comments, and we'll definitely interact with you. BetMGM, let's look at their head-to-heads and see if there's any we would like. So Logano versus Hamlin. Logano a slight favorite. Blaney versus Elliott. Blaney a slight favorite. I think I agree with both of those. Larson versus
on the Logano Hamlin matchup, DraftKings has the same one. You can get Logano at even money, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I will take that.
I was just gonna say, like, to me, you can't put Logano as the dog to Denny Hamlin in the Gen 7 package at super speedways.
And that's over on DraftKings. I will take that. It's a head-to-head at a super speedway. It's probably stupid, but if you're telling me I can get plus 100 on a guy that I think could win the race, and I'll take it. Byron versus Bubba, I think, is interesting. Keselowski versus Buescher, I don't want any part of that. Cindric versus Bell, I don't want any part of that.
You don't want any part of that, but plus money for Buescher versus Keselowski. Look, if they finish 1-2 and Buescher finishes ahead of him and wins, like, not surprising.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I have his outright, so if he finishes 1, I would be happy. Ty Reddick versus Ty Gibbs. Battle of the Ties.
They're both caca at super speedways.
Gilligan versus Nick.
We're going to call it Gilliland Island this year.
Oh, let's go to Gilligan's Island. Ryan Preece at plus or even money versus Ross Chastain is interesting.
Yeah, I already have exposure to Preece with that early week underplay for his finishing position, so I wouldn't get there. But yeah, I don't mind playing at plus money. Any matchup that's plus money or longer, I think, is almost a must bet.
I was really hoping to get like a 2-1 or a 3-1 like we've gotten in the past at a handful of the races.
Well, Martin Truex Jr. plus 105 over Chase Briscoe. That's a fun narrative. Right there.
I wish it said James Small right here. I don't have any our cards are already getting too aggressive, Brian. I don't like this.
No, they're small. We're going small, dude.
I mean, I already won, so I'm just giving it all back.
At least I am. And also, by the way, over on DraftKings, another one that I'm playing to piggyback off of my Bubba Wallace is better than a lot of people think he is. He's even money to finish ahead of William Byron. Defending Daytona 500 champion Byron is receiving some love, I guess. I don't know. Bubba Wallace is here, and William Byron is probably here in terms of super speedway racing. So give me the plus money there.
But he won last year, Brian. He's got to be
So
better.
what? It's the 500. Anybody can win, as evidenced when we were naming off names who have won at Daytona.
Yeah.
Shit, Justin Haley has a win at Daytona. Rain shortened race, but still.
Yeah. A lot of the placement market numbers are just stupid for given
Garbage,
what
yeah.
we could see the carnage, even if they're awesome for an 80% of the race. So I don't think I'm going to add any of them. Are you pretty content with where your card's at least as we sit here right now?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think I'm going to be getting too much bigger on here. Because again, when you're playing the outright market, I'm looking at dart throws. This is more for fun.
Yeah.
Like if you're planning on being profitable, as we've learned over the last couple of years, Daytona and Talladega specifically, you cannot get over your skis. You cannot get overly excited. You can't be playing tons of units. Your unit allocation at these races, I said it last year. If you take the 36 race schedule and you divide each race by 36 for your entire budget, these super speedway races should account for maybe 1/4 of 1/36 of your budget for the year. Like you need to cut this thing. You need to fractionalize your budget for these super speedway races into maybe one race for all 4 or maybe 6.
Yeah. I agree. All right, so I have Chris Bell, Chase Briscoe, Bubba Wallace to win the 500. I have Logano over Denny and Priest over Chastain. Brian has Cindric, Busher, and Bubba. He has Priest under 22.5 finishing position, which I like a lot. And then Bubba over Byron at even money. That is our card. We gave you our DraftKings thoughts. We got it all sorted out. This was fun to have week 1. Like I said, I'm going to get this all published and up on YouTube as soon as possible. Our newsletter will be out Sunday morning. Going forward, we'll be in your feed Wednesdays and Sundays, unless it's a Saturday race, and then we'll be Tuesdays and Fridays.
Or travel.
We'll make
changes.
sure we update you guys on the schedule as the season rolls along. Get in Grid Rival. Go join Win the Race. Get in that Discord and chat with us. That's the best way to take advantage of that membership. That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Let us know down in the comments favorite bets, favorite DraftKings plays, any other NASCAR thoughts. We'll be rolling in and out between now and race day. Make sure you are ready for the race at 10:30 or 1:30 on the East Coast. Make sure you check out Chris Wormy's pre-race poll. And we'll talk to you guys next time on the Angle of Pursuit podcast.